disoriented, hungry, and as you come to your senses, you realize, shit, this elf girl's cute as fuck. I wanna—
No! Bad! That is not what's important right now.
I need to eat?
No! I mean, yes, but you realize that your party was just annihilated by a red dragon deep within the dungeon. All of you were safely teleported to the surface.
All of you except one. Your sister, Fallen, has fallen into the jaws of that red dragon. Yet she somehow managed to save everyone except herself. Fallen has been eaten by the dragon. And now, before her body is completely digested and turned into shit, you must re-enter that dungeon. No money for food or equipment. Slay the dragon, wrench your sister's decomposing corpse from the dragon's bowels, and pray that you can resurrect her from the remains. 2 of your party members hand in their resignation forms. This mission is tantamount to suicide. That story sounds pretty fucked up, doesn't it? Well, you wouldn't think that if you were watching this. First, at least. Delicious in Dungeon. God, that's such a terrible fucking translation. Dungeon Meshi is somehow able to seamlessly juggle goofy comedy and wholesome cooking scenes with gut-wrenching drama and grim, dark horror. I was gonna do a video on the Avatar like the poll said, sorry about that. But then this shit got good. The Dungeon Meshi believers are eating good right now.
I want to wear that frog skin.
Ribbit.
オーガエルを買いから剥がす乾かしして裁縫
なんかオーガエルの血が内側で固まって服にくっついちゃってるんだけど
And I've lost my appetite. Have I gained nearly 10 pounds since Dungeon Meshi started airing? Yes. It's my bulking season, shut up. The biggest critique of Dungeon Meshi is that the story doesn't really take off until like episode 11. Up until that point, it comes off as just a D&D inspired monster cooking comedy. Kinda like Food Wars, but with less titties. Because you see, unlike a lot of other shows these days, Dungeon Meshi doesn't just blow its load episode 1.
I'm looking at you, Oshinoko!
But instead takes its time to build up its world, its characters, and most importantly, its plot points. And this really pays off later on in the story. But of course, we've all heard this shit before.
It gets really good after 500 episodes.
And yes, that's true. Good stories generally tend to get better as they go on. But that's also complete fucking bullshit. One Piece fans are crying right now. The characters and world of Dungeon Meshi are charming from the start. The story does evolve in ways that you would never imagine, but this is my advice. If you don't at least enjoy it somewhat from the start, don't force yourself to watch something you hate in hopes of magically liking it later on. There is plenty of other anime and entertainment out there. You don't need to waste your time.
If that's the case, then why should we watch Dungeon Meshi?
I'm glad you asked. Dwarven gooch. Lots and lots of dwarven gooch. Tonal balancing. The ability for Dungeon Meshi to seamlessly weave between comedy, drama, action, and horror. Characters that feel real, with diverse designs that actually serve a fucking purpose. For instance, Dungeon Meshi isn't afraid of having thick female characters. And I don't mean thick as in anime chick thick with balloon boobs bigger than the rest of their fucking body. I mean thick as in chunky. Got some meat on them bones. And they do because it makes sense for their race and occupation. And of course, dudes are still lining up to simp for them.
I'm finna get me some murdered orc pork for real.
Looks like meat's back on the menu, boys!
Characters with clashing, yet reasonable motives, morals, and desires. Characters that show legitimate growth throughout the story. With a main cast that isn't overpowered, but actually tackles problems intelligently and creatively. And solve disputes like grown fucking adults. You know, if there's one thing that I've learned from this series, it's that sometimes in order to get your point across, you just gotta fucking punch punch someone in the face. World building that is second to none, fed to us bit by bit, naturally as part of the story, with a living, breathing world that moves and takes action outside of our main cast. And yes, we are still talking about the cooking anime, a story that is complete, complex, and self-contained. A story that takes its time, building up plot lines and themes and characters. Doesn't just bust its nut early on like a two-pump chump, and then it beautifully ties everything together at the end. I've actually seen multiple people compare Dungeon Meshi to Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, the mangas at least. This and the tonal balancing being the primary reasons why, and I kinda see it. Yes, Studio Trigger has done a great job with the animation. Many beautifully animated action scenes, yet even the bad animation still shot scenes made me laugh the hardest. Yes, there's a bunch of other stuff and reasons why you would like the show, but mainly, it all comes back to the writing. The writing and planning of Dungeon Meshi is amazing, even if that's not apparent from the start. Dungeon Meshi's mangaka, which basically means author, Ryoko Kui, is revered by many of her fans as a god. Personally, I wouldn't go that far, but she's pretty good. So I watched the anime up to episode 13, at which point I can no longer contain my wiener fluids.
What the fuck is going on?
So I went and read the manga. In the story of Dungeon Meshi, everything happens for a reason. Plot points are set up without you noticing them. It's all kept track of, and then, before you even notice, things start to click together. For example, this group of adventurers died to these things called treasure bugs. Laios and company, these are the main characters by the way. Laios and company found them dead and then defeated and eated the treasure bugs. Later on in the story, this group is resurrected by these guys. Hey.
What up, Nick?
They wake up and all the treasure that they had just found is missing. And thus, they give chase. This event snowballs into this event, and this event, which snowballs into even more events, and then there's a huge event explosion! Moral ambiguity. When characters aren't just black and white, good and evil, right and wrong, smart and stupid, but when multiple groups of people have their own morals, values, desires, and from their own perspective, everyone thinks that they're doing the right thing. Yet they inevitably clash with one another because their wants and needs overlap. And yes, we are still talking about the cooking show, but the weirdest, craziest, coolest thing about all of this is the way in which cooking and eating is baked into everything the series does. Laios and company get annihilated, and they lose Fallen because they were starving and weak. The Red Dragon eats Fallen, and Laios must save her before she's fully digested. Laios and his party have no money after getting wiped, so they resort to hunting, cooking, and eating monsters so that they can save Fallen in time. And that's just the first 5 minutes and 30 seconds of the first episode. And with all the crazy stuff and themes we've talked about in this video, food remains at the core of everything. In literature, we call that a motif. But I am not your English teacher. Probably. Shout out to my boy Kevin. Do not tell anyone else in the class or I fucking swear to God, dude. But we don't really care about that. What we care about is how fucking cool it is to watch all of these elements come together. The tight writing, cute and funny comedy, interesting wording, the food, world building, cosmic horror, the butt puckering, edge of your seat, bounce up and down on your medicine ball, which I literally did that during this scene, drama, the character design and development. All of these meats and vegetables and herbs and spices come together and complement one another in a very uniquely entertaining way. And yes, we are still talking about the cooking, fantasy adventure, cosmic horror, psychological thriller, character drama, anime. Thank you to Fenestralia, Lasagna Soda, Ben, Rocky Pebbleman, Ollie, Ducky, Luke B, Olsen, Cat, Sorizen, Mansour P, My Butthole, Valentine Mororg, Zayden Jar. Fuck. You guys help keep the ship afloat. And if you haven't already, come check out the Patreon. I have finally started posting extra content there for free, and I'm focusing on adding value to it. It's looking good, but that's it for now. Thanks for watching, thanks for supporting me, and I will see you all in the next